Good morning and welcome to the OCR Report's presentation of the 2024 DEKA FIT Elite Series. Will be coming inside. No one who has competed in the first two races near the top is here today, but we have three competitors who towed the line in the World Championship last year in Julie Best, Michelle Navarro, and Jess Caviglia. So should be an exciting morning of racing, competitive. Again, that rematch between two guys that put solid season openers out there 2 weeks ago. And yeah, excited for a couple of fun races this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said it best, even with the female field, not really anybody that has competing this year, but that's what makes this race so exciting. That's what makes a race series so exciting. We bring in new names now that can definitely solidify themselves for the World Championships and get a podium as well from former names that we always hear, Morgan Schultz, Lauren Weeks, and all those names. So, and even on the men's field, we get another exciting showdown of Glenn Race and Isaac Sanderson. Isaac Sanderson is on a whole nother level right now. His fitness is through the roof. I'm very excited. He broke that 30-minute barrier at SoCal. Let's see what he can do this. Does he break 29 today? I don't know. And then can Glenn Race make it a race against Isaac Sanderson today? And who's going to be nipping at his heels today? None other than OCR Report also helper Jack Bauer back on the field. Excited to see him out there. And a couple other faces as well, too. Like you said, Jazz Hatton, he is our only competitor, I believe, who has done all three race series this year. Has still yet to get that 31-minute barrier that we know he is fully capable of doing. If he's able to do that today, he will definitely be in the running for the podium spot.
Yeah, because of how competitive that race was at the top, Chaz Hatton's improvement sort of went under the radar, but he dropped nearly a minute from his Knoxville time in SoCal, went from, I think, 31:59 down to 31:09. And on the other side, again, you mentioned Isaac Sanderson. Still fewer than 10 guys have ever gone sub 30. He joined that group with some room to spare, going well under the 30-minute mark. Yeah, just 2 weeks later, not a ton of time to build fitness, but he has that race experience. He's got one on the board. And Glenn Race was less than 10 seconds off of his PR a couple of weeks ago. So this should be exciting. Jack Bauer, someone who has podiumed at this venue or this race in Norcal twice before, taking third place each of the last 2 years. He had a tough injury break last year that kind of derailed his season in the middle, but he's someone that's competed in the World Championship before, certainly has gone fully into this hybrid arena, and I'm excited to see what he can do, after the hard work he put in getting all of our stats and stuff updated and making sure that we sound like we know what we're talking about. Jack, 100%. Of course, towing the line today, and yeah, it should be fun. Now there's a date on the calendar, right? We knew that there would be a World Championship at some point later in the season. The regular season schedule had been fully built out, but now we know for sure December 13th through 15th in Ocala, Florida. Interestingly, the same venue as the final race in the regular season series. So for a lot of these athletes, maybe coming from the West Coast or other parts of the country, they'll have that experience with travel and logistics and a familiar venue if they go to the regular season one before. But, it's interesting having that 3+ month gap between the final regular season race and the World Championship gives athletes a chance to, once they secure their qualification, really plan things out back into that championship date and plan a solid training block.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that's so exciting about these race series. You plug and play which race you want to do. A lot of athletes do it because of FOMO, right? Everybody wants to jump in a race and everyone wants to do it because they're definitely capable of doing it. But at the same time, one of the races have to be where you solidify yourself and solidify your name and stamp your ticket to the World Championships. And the great thing about that is the last qualifier is 3 months prior to the World Championships. So you can do it all season long. And then September coming around on the last race series, you're able to stamp your place then. And then, of course, then you have 3 months of full-on training where you can go all out for the World Championships come December. So that's what makes this race series so exciting. And that's what's great about, like I said, today. It might be a couple of names here or there that you're not familiar with at home, but they're still going to put on a great performance for you. And it's going to be awesome viewing for everybody. And I'm excited to see who comes out on top today.
So I think we're going to take a look at the course map here momentarily. If you're familiar with DEKA FIT, this will be no surprise. One of the great benefits is the setup is the same at every race, but if you're just tuning in for the first time, the format is this. It's a 500-meter run followed by a workout station. Repeat that 10 times. You end up with a 5K of running and, of course, the work on the stations. You are running counterclockwise around 2 laps, coming in to do each station and then going back out of the run, of course, starting with the lunges and then a 500-meter row. The box jumps, or more commonly step overs at this point, sit-up, ski erg, farmer's carry, and then, of course, the game changer, the air bike, Station 7, where moves can be made and race positions can either change or be solidified. The dead ball over is deceptively difficult coming just after that bike, and then the big finish, the sled push and pull, and then ram burpees. Of course, this year, the additional emphasis on form and technique with some of the standards with ram burpees that is slowed down athletes a little bit in that last station, but we've seen positions change and moves made there right at the very end of the race. So again, unless there's an athlete in this field stepping into the arena for the first time, nothing new here for these athletes. But the great thing is they have that familiarity. They can come through with a race plan. A lot of these competitors have raced earlier this season, some even 2 weeks ago. And so regardless of what that plan is, they all know what they're trying to accomplish, and there's not too much in the way of mystery here, which I think makes it exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it best. I mean, at this point, I think most racers know exactly what the form, techniques, the strategies, everything coming into this, right? DEKA FIT's been around long enough now where most people are familiarized with it. They know it like the back of their hand. Now, always the new names that come in. Where does the race brain kick in? Do they go out too hot? Do they start out too slow? Do they fully lock out? Do they jump over the box overs? All this type of thing. That's what makes the sport still exciting, because we still have new names coming in, such as a name that I want to throw out there as a dark horse today in the elite men's field. We have a guy named Stephen Young. And Xander, I don't know if you saw as well too on the sheet that I have, but this man can run a 14:33 5K, a 4:07 mile. This kid's got wheels. And so, but we've seen it before. We've seen a very good runner come in and maybe not translate as well into the fitness stuff, like Tyler Veerman a couple weeks ago. Tyler Veerman had a great showing, and he's a fantastic runner, but we knew the stations were going to catch up to him at some point, right? At least as far as winning the race overall. So I want to see how this kid does. I have a feeling he's going to be the one that probably takes it out super hot at the beginning, and then I would love to see how it works. But he's been working with Rich Ryan, so maybe we have a strategy that we have still yet to see from him.
Yeah, and he's a former collegiate teammate of Rich Ryan at St. Joe's. So that Division I running pedigree, you mentioned great track times, almost a sub-31 10K runner. You know, that's probably the best pure running pedigree of anyone in this field today, certainly, and possibly anyone that's, you know, towed the line at DEKA FIT here in the last couple of years. So, yeah, interesting to see how something like that does. You mentioned Tyler Veerman, who came in and sort of held on, or actually was holding on and then had a penalty toward the end of that race, and kind of that changed his position. But then on the other side, we saw Grayson Kilgore step into DEKA FIT for the first time, and he kind of went out a bit hot, coming more from that sort of strength, DEKA strong type background, and he faded a little bit, ended up giving up second place to Glenn Race after the air bike. So, yeah, to that point, sometimes when athletes are a bit newer to this format, even if they know what's coming, they don't quite know how it should feel and how to pace. And whether it's someone, again, coming more from that running background who isn't used to the station work and the compromise running back and forth, or someone very familiar with the stations that maybe isn't quite sure what kind of effort to put out on the runs to sustain over the course of 30 to 35 minutes, it's oftentimes the athletes with the experience in the middle who have put in work on both ends that come out the strongest, as we've seen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hybrid racing is made of the perfect unicorn. You know, you can't be an excellent runner and not do any type of resistance training on the side or any type of machine work. And then you can't be just a full on, meathead at the gym and then not do any type of running. It is the perfect blend of both of them. And right now, that is Isaac Sanderson. So Xander, do you see a world record today? I know he made a post a couple of days ago just saying he's coming out for fun. He's using this as training. And I know he has stated that to me personally as well, too. But I have a feeling this man wants a sub 29. He wants a world record. He wants to strive for it. I mean, who wouldn't, of course? And his level of fitness, I think, can do that. But can he do it by himself on this course? Is anybody going to really be pushing him today? Or is that something maybe we might see later in the year?
Yeah, it may be tough, although we did see last week Lauren Weeks basically running by herself. She opened up a gap on Vivian Tafuto early on and essentially soloed a world record. Now, she's someone who has been absolutely dominating the high rock space over the last couple of months and is certainly, at peak fitness or thereabout building for High Rocks World Championship. Isaac Sanderson, someone who, we'll see, because, he broke out with that sub 30 a couple weeks ago. Now he still has more than a minute to take off to get to Ryland Chaddock's world record of 28:28. I think he would need a big day for whether it's Glenn Race or whether it's, someone that we're not expecting to come out there. And, maybe Stephen Young paces it well and can pull Isaac, in the first half of the race to a quick time or a quick start to the race. It's going to be difficult, I think, for him to take more than a minute off if he's running alone like he was last week, because Glenn and Grayson had a bit of a battle, but Isaac was away from the very beginning, and so he didn't really have anyone to chase. We'll see. I think you saying that he's out here just for fun and relaxed, sometimes that can help. It takes the pressure off. He's already got a time on the board, barring an unbelievable series of events. He's got his world championship locked in, by minutes. So maybe that relaxed mindset will help him just get after it, and we'll see something special today.
I agree. I think this race is going to be fantastic to watch, just like every single race that we cover, of course. And I'm looking forward to any of the efforts from both for the male and the female today.
So in this men's race, as they start to call out some of the top athletes to the start line, we've got 5 guys that have gone sub 32 in the past, of course, led by Isaac Sanderson and Glenn Race, both of them under 31, in Isaac's case, under 30. Jack Bauer, Mark Polzin, and Chaz Hatton have all gone under 32 as well. And then you've got Jeremiah Mahan and John Howard. So here's a look at some of our top competitors today. There's Jack Bauer, of course, one of the guys behind the scenes here at the OCR Report, helping seed these races, making sure that we have the background info on all these athletes. He's podiumed here at this Norcal race twice, and Jack is certainly hungry to make a strong debut this season.
Absolutely. Mr. 24 himself. I'm looking forward to this the most. And then, of course, we got Mark Polzin as well, too, who has podiumed before in the past. Hopefully for a good performance today. I assume a very low 31, and he hopefully can break the 31 barrier today.
Yeah, good representation from the slightly older part of the age group with Mark and Glenn. Of course, Chaz Hatton, he was a Triple Crown world champion in the age group ranks in the 30 to 34 last year, and he stepped up into the elite field and has improved from Knoxville, again, just barely under 32, a little bit faster, or just barely under 33, I think, and then a little bit faster last time. Either way, almost a minute taken off between race 1 and race 2. Excited to see what he can do today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking for a breakthrough race with Chaz eventually, and it's gonna kick us here soon. Maybe today, hopefully. And then of course we got Glenn Race, who had an awesome second place finish at SoCal. I believe he podiumed Norcal last year. I could be mistaken, but I mean 30:50 is a phenomenal time, and I think he's going to get even faster today, feeding off Isaac again.
And at the top of the field, at least in terms of seeding, Isaac Sanderson. He's someone who stepped into this space last year. He's also done an 8-hour Tough Mudder in Saudi Arabia. So he's one of those athletes that does a bit of everything, runs in the mountains, but can certainly throw down here in the hybrid space. 29:41 2 weeks ago. Presumably the favorite here today. You'll see his Canadian flag headband. He's easy to spot. And I'm excited to see what he can do kind of in this second go-around in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Isaac reminds me a lot of Ryan Atkins. He just has range in all of his fitness. He could do an 8-hour race one weekend, and then he could jump in and do a DEKA Fit or a DEKA Strong the next, and he will be a contender in every sport he does.
And Isaac has been training with or helped guided by Rylan Shadig, the man whose world record he might try and take down today or at some point in the season. And I'm excited to see Rylan back here in the DEKA FIT space when he gets to that point as well.
Absolutely. That should be exciting to watch.
So we're just about set to go here as the national anthem is going on. You see Jack Bauer there in the light t-shirt, Dustin Needham up there in the front as well. Of course, Isaac Sanderson. Many strong athletes here in this men's field. Again, this first heat should be a great throwdown between some strong competitors.
I think so. I think first place is pretty solidified right now. I don't want to go against Isaac's current fitness. I believe this man is going to pull out the first place, and I believe he's going to be a faster time than he did 2 weeks ago, as much as he says he's doing this for fun. I'm going to say Glenn also pulls out another second place. We're going to see a repeat in SoCal 1 and 2. Now, third place is where it gets very interesting between Jack Bauer, Mark, Jeremiah, Chaz, John Howard, and then, of course, never wrong with Dustin Needham and Max Fennell, but then I'm going to throw Stephen Young out there as well, too, just because of his pace. I think Jack takes his three-peat at getting third place in Norcal. I'm going to say, come on, Jack. You got it, man. Mr. 24 himself.
And Jack strikes me as someone who's very aware of sort of where he's at whenever he steps on the course. So he's not someone that necessarily is going to get pulled into going out really hot if Isaac and Glenn decide to do that. Whereas he might run his race. Maybe he's in 4th, 5th, 6th and works his way up. We'll see how it unfolds. We're just seconds away from the start here from Sacramento.
Yeah, and don't count out John Howard. Of course, last race in SoCal, he started out in the back of the pack. I want to say he was the last one in on the first run with Dustin Needham when he coming into lunges, and he ended up finishing, I believe, 5th place. So he's one of those later runners who will kick it in. He might be out of contention at the beginning, but expect to see him move up. And it looks like on the far left, Preston Burnett is running today. Preston is a hell of an athlete himself. He always usually does the ruck division. He works for DEKA. It's exciting to see Preston out in the field. Preston can make a name for himself today as a contender for third place.
And we're quite literally off and running here in the third race of the 2024 DEKA FIT Elite season. The Elite men are off this first 500-meter run, and already Isaac Sanderson to the front.
I didn't expect anything less from the man. And also, too, Max Fennell is also very known to take it out hot at the beginning. He's a great first half runner. Let's see how that plays off this time. He's definitely more experienced now. He's definitely done his fair share of DEKA Fits. So hopefully there's a different strategy for him coming in, because I would like to see him do well.
And maybe a good sign to that point that he's sort of letting Isaac go here instead of trying to stay stride for stride with him. Maybe ratcheting back just a split second or dialing it back a tiny bit could help sustain throughout the course of the race.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, other than Isaac himself, who really wants to come in first. See, there's John Howard right there in the back, just like it was the last race, but then he ran a 32, which is flying. So John Howard definitely knows exactly what he's doing. Dustin Needham seems to be moving a little bit faster, but it's interesting to see who's going to be the ones who want to take it out hot at the beginning. I'm not sure which one is Stephen Young, though. It doesn't look like he's out front. So maybe Stephen knows, hey, maybe I shouldn't put all my cards in the one run. So
so Isaac Sanderson, as expected, the first guy in. I believe that's Glenn Race right behind him. And we'll start to get a look at the splits as they come out of this station, and we get a better idea of who's in what position. But this is 30 reverse alternating lunges. You see that red line on the mats. That's part of the emphasis on technique this year. Your heel of your front foot has to be in front of that line with every rep, just making sure that the athletes get the full range of motion as dictated by the standards. Again, this is a station that isn't going to be too much of a speed bump for any of these guys, but Isaac already out first, making quick work of it.
Yeah, the new standards now with the lunges, I really like it. Most people were always trying to criticizing, is the knees too close to the ankle? This is a great way of just putting it across the board and really standardizing everything. Oh, we had a little bit of a mishap. Also, too, another rule as well. You have to put the ram roller back in the standing position. Now, if it just slightly tips over, I believe that's okay. But that's another rule. You can no longer just throw it. Those ram rollers can bounce more than you think.
And here's Isaac Sanderson in that smooth stride. He looked very controlled throughout the entirety of his race 2 weeks ago. And that's always a good sign, because sometimes that means that you are moving really fast. If it doesn't look like you're working hard, you've got that sort of deceptive effort, and he's already, blowing out the field, at least in this early going. And we'll see if he can sustain that pace throughout.
Yeah, Xander, I had to take a quick look as well, too. He ran that first 500, I believe, in 1:27, which, folks at home, if you don't know, is a 4:40 pace right now. So Isaac is definitely on a mission today. He is pushing these runs like no other. If he can sustain a 5-minute pace the whole time, watch out. This is very exciting to see. I mean, what else does he have to lose at this point, right? So he's already got a great time that will probably guarantee his spot into the World Championships. So you might as well just not pump the brakes and go all gas, right?
Absolutely. Want to thank our OCR Report members for making this race live stream possible for less than $5 a month. You can help us live stream races like this every single week. Go to patreon.com/the OCR Report to become a member today. Isaac Sanderson already on to station 2. This is a 500-meter row. You see him pulling a casual 140 here about 4 minutes.
He's coming out hot. Yeah, he is coming out hot. He wants it. Go for the world record, Isaac. Like I said, what do you got to lose, man? Come on. Let's put on a show for these people at home.
Glenn Reyes right behind him.
There's Jeremiah Mahan, and then Dustin Needham to the left of him. Jeremiah's another name we don't really talk about much. He finishes 4th, 5th in most races. I'm not sure where he placed the World Championships if he competed. I apologize. But he's not, I don't believe, someone who has podiums. So this is a great opportunity and a great race for him to feed off Glenn and try to get that 3rd place. Also, Jack, reeling in a very decent rowing time right now. It's good to see Jack back on the course.
Yeah, Isaac Sanderson, Glenn Reyes, believe that's Mark Polzin in between Glenn and Jack Bauer, and really most of this men's field now at this point on the rower. So again, with those splits, that is the 500 meters. So this station will take somewhere between 140 and 150 for most of these athletes, although Isaac was right on that 140 mark. You see Mark again with that 146, similar to what Jack was pulling. So not a ton of separation here, but it's the kind of station where you need to manage your effort, because if you tip over and exert yourself a little bit too much, maybe you get 5 extra seconds, but you're going to pay for it later on.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Xander, because when you come onto the station, it's so deceiving. I mean, you're still somewhat fresh even after the lunges in the second run. You're going to want to, if you are capable of rowing a 130, 135, you're going to want to put in that type of effort, but you have to back off. It's only station 2 out of 10. You have so much more of a race to continue afterwards, and you can definitely blow up right afterwards if you go out too hot on the road.
So as you saw last time they pulled the splits up, Isaac Sanderson's chip doesn't seem to be registering, so that's something we'll have to keep in mind when the leaderboards pop up. It's clearly Isaac is in first place. You see Glenn listed at number 1. He's actually in second. And a good battle emerging. Jeremiah Mahan, Mark Polzin, and Jack Bauer are getting after it here. You see Max with that 205, maybe falling off the pace a little bit, but perhaps that controlled effort earlier on might help him sustain more so than he has in the past.
Yeah. There's Preston right there moving around. Yeah, definitely controlled effort for everybody. A 150, even a 145 on the elite level is definitely a controlled effort, I believe. And most of these guys could easily go under 140. Now, what's impressive is how fast are your run split after the rower, even after a controlled effort. Are you still sub 2? I would imagine most of these guys are running sub 2 minute 500 meter splits, but are you going to be more in the 140 range, which I believe is what really puts you away from the rest of the pack, excuse me.
And even though we're less than a third of the way into this race in terms of time, you see there's already some separation in the pack. Jack Bauer trying to hang on to Mark Polzin there. as Isaac Sanderson already into the box step overs.
Wow. His runs just look effortless right now. And it looks like he is not slowing down on the box overs, which is another somewhat deceiving station as well, too. For people at home, the box overs are standardized throughout everybody's age, height, and then also to gender. 24 inches is a lot for, the shorter people as well. But for someone who's on the elite level, those hop overs, it's almost kind of like just annoying almost. It's just kind of there. It's a speed bump.
Yeah, for sure. And because you have to have both feet on the top and the bottom, you can only go so fast. And for these athletes, the movement itself isn't really challenging. So another station similar to the lunges, where for the people at this level, there's really not a whole lot of time to make up or lose on this station specifically, unless, you slip. And that is one thing that BJ and I talked about 2 weeks ago, is that especially as athletes have moved to using carbon-plated super shoes, for the most part, with a few exceptions, those can be a little bit tricky just with the soft top of the box and sort of the more high stack, springy foam and plate. But at this point, if you've done a few races in those shoes, you'll be used to that feeling.
Yeah, we saw it last year, Xander, in person. Megan Jacoby falling off the box. It is very possible. Those things are not the most firm thing. But that's why you got to be very careful about where you're placed. But everyone who on the top level, they know exactly where they're stepping.
So the top 5 emerging, again, Isaac Sanderson, who you see here, is in first, not being picked up on the splits, but not a lot of separation. John Howard, the fastest box over time, maybe except for Isaac, but even Jack Bauer, who's the slowest, quote unquote, of this top 8 or 9, only a 5, 6, 7 second gap. So not a ton to be made up or lost here. And another station coming up, the med ball sit-ups, where it's not going to be particularly difficult, but it's about just sort of getting through these early stations and runs at the right effort so that you can be in a position where you're strong heading into the ski erg and bike, which is when the race can kind of get real.
Yeah, unlike the box overs and maybe the farmer carry, as far as the separations involved, setups can actually make a separation between the racers or not. Different racers have different strategies when they come and do their setups. Like when we see Bubbles do it, he'll barely come up. He just flings that ball at the target. There's Isaac with a little bit of just a mistake, but not anything that's going to cost him. And as you can tell, Isaac's barely thrown it just a little bit. He's nice and close. Glenn, he's not even releasing the ball, and he's hitting the target, which is totally valid. But everyone has their different strategy, and it can make a good 10, maybe even 20-second difference while doing these setups.
And it's back-to-back stations that will work your core, these sit-ups, and then straight into the ski erg, which, yes, is a lot of upper body, but more so core and having to hinge with every stroke. So that back-to-back can be tricky, and we've seen some athletes come into the farmer's carry maybe not feeling as good as they expected with that back-to-back situation.
Yeah, absolutely. The ski erg can definitely mess up some people with that movement, and the setups are very similar movement as well, too, as you mentioned. And so it's interesting to see what people's strategies are going into the ski erg. Maybe they don't hinge as much, and maybe they squat more. Another thing that we'll get to witness here in a minute.
And while you're watching today's broadcast, hit that subscribe button. The OCR Report on YouTube is the only place to watch race live streams all year long. So subscribe now. Most of our top 5 is out of the sit-ups. You see Dustin Needham here in the foreground, Max Fennell on the other side of the screen. They're kind of battling for position around that 7 or 8 mark. Isaac Sanderson well on his way into the ski erg here in just a little bit.
Yeah, it is very clear Isaac is a man on a mission right now, and no one is sticking around with him as well, too. I think Glenn and the rest of the pack kind of knew coming into this race, run my own race, do my own thing. Isaac's going to go ahead and be the man of the hour. So it's smart that no one is trying to keep up with Isaac's pace right now, because they very well could blow up in the process. Not saying that they can't, but maybe the first 5 they can, but the last 5 maybe they cannot. So he's looking so strong right now. This is very impressive to watch. Man, if only I knew maybe what the split of the world record is coming into the skier right now. Man.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll have to prepare for next time. But either way, we'll be able to track, how much time he has remaining. This is zone 5 now, so close to the halfway point of the race in terms of elements. Now, some of the later stations are a bit more time consuming, especially the tank push and pull. You see there a bit of separation with some athletes on those med ball sit-ups. John Howard, 41 seconds, compared to a couple of other top 10 athletes in the 50s or even crossing a minute. Stephen Young, who we haven't seen much, there with a 119, so maybe he's kind of getting that first taste of what the hybrid arena can do to you when you're coming from a running background and maybe not.
I think that medicine ball got him
in a race scenario.
So like I mentioned, that you saw John Howard's times. I think this is how John Howard sneaks up on you in the later halves. He's so good at the stations, and he works his way up while being very consistent with his runs. So be looking out for John Howard to be sneaking up in that third place podium, which at the moment looks like a battle between Jeremiah, Jack, and Mark.
So there's Isaac, and I believe that's Jeremiah, I think, next to him. So you see John Howard coming in. And, don't have a look at the splits, but Isaac just continuing that controlled movement. It's hard to tell exactly how fast he's running, whether it's sub-5 pace, low 5s as he works his way around in these last few runs. But he looks just as controlled as he did 2 weeks ago when he went sub-30. And you can see there him pulling
150
in the low 150s, right around that 150 mark.
Yeah, I think that's a great pace for a skier. I think as long as you're sub-2, transition included, that's a fantastic ski-erg station. There is no sense in whatsoever blowing yourself up unless you're behind and you need to make a move, or if you want to get second place out of the way. Okay, I'm going to try to clock his time, Xander, see what type of pace he's pushing. I think he came out on our clock 32:15. I know people at home, we started 20 minutes before you, but let's go ahead and try to clock his effort here.
And Glenn Ray's
not too far behind, actually. It's still relatively close, so I love it.
Yeah, about 20 seconds or so, and that's a little bit closer than the gap from last week's race in terms of relative time. Isaac was about 1 minute and 20 seconds ahead of Glenn in the race 2 weeks ago for the entirety of the race. And so if Glenn can be within 20, 25 seconds right now, that's a good sign for him to maybe crack a new PR, which is, I believe, 30:51.
Absolutely, yeah. I would love for Glenn to join the sub-30 crowd. Man, he's an OCR Hall of Famer. He's a Spartan Hall of Famer. Soon to be maybe DEKA Hall of Famer. So he definitely deserves it. I hope he can pull out a low 30 today.
Some of the bottom half of the top 10 here is still on the ski-erg as we get some of the splits. You see a pretty tight grouping. Mark Polzin has moved into third place, just ahead of Jeremiah and Jack.
It's hard to argue who has more experience between those three names you just mentioned. All three are very well experienced, and they're veterans at the sport. So they're going to each going to play it out. They're not going to, I would assume, not chase one another. They have a strategy. They're going to keep to it. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top between that race. That's going to be a fun one to watch at the end. All right, so
Isaac Sanderson already into the farmer's carry.
He ran about a 145 right there. So he is definitely still moving.
Yeah, 145, 500, of course, is a 3:30 kilometer, which is well under 6 minute pace, close to 5:30. So, yeah, Isaac is moving really well, even now that he's somewhat compromised about halfway through this race.
Right. To be able to sustain that type of effort, being compromised as well, too. And he doesn't even look like he's breathing hard. I mean, he's not slouching on the farmer carry. He's looking very strong. He's keeping his chest upright. 16:52. He's keeping his chest upright, which helps with the breathing. This station, VJ mentioned this on their last one. This can gash you. It is very deceiving. a lot of people will slouch during this, and that compression on your chest of what it does, you hold your breath more than you think, and that run afterwards, you'll feel a little lightheaded, and you're wondering where all of a sudden this is coming from. It's because you're not breathing while you're doing the farmer carry. So if you could keep that chest upright, not too tight onto it as well too, to loosen up your grip, you breathe just fine, and you can move into the transition into the run a lot smoother.
And how about this? We've got ourselves a battle for the podium, 3, 4, 5 seconds apart. Already some positions changing. Jack came in 4th. He's now in 5th. I think that's Jeremiah moving ahead. We got Mark in 4th. This is going to be exciting to see as we head down toward the air bike here coming up in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what these gentlemen's splits are, but that's where the move is going to be made. And man, if they all three come off at the same time, I think I'm going to lose my mind, Xander. So it's going to be a fun race to watch.
In that inset box, Isaac Sanderson still looking smooth. This is run number 7 for him, still well shy of the 20-minute mark of this race.
Look at his running form. I mean, this man he definitely knows how to run. If you want to get a good video, VJ has always been an exception as well as what a true running form looks like. Man, Isaac's right there too. That cadence is perfect. He doesn't look like he's putting in more of an effort or less than an effort compared to the first run. He's looking strong.
And let's keep an eye on John Howard. You could see him putting down the farmer's carry there before the camera switched back to Isaac. And he's kind of alone right now, but he's someone who might put himself in a position to pick off a couple of spots if these 3, 4, 5 guys have a bit of a rough go on the air bike. You know, you mentioned it coming into the start of the race where John's going to do his thing, start off conservatively and work his way up. He's been doing that, is in a solid 6th place, and we'll see what he can do later on as Isaac here trying to work through those 25 calories.
I think that real watch is going to be between the 3 gentlemen that are battling out right now, but John Howard's going to be the one that sneaks in right at the very end. I just know it. So it very well could be a 4-man fadeaway match for that 3rd place podium. Because Glenn, man, he's working it. I love it. Glenn's putting on a show as well for us. He's not that far behind, maybe 10, 15 calories behind Isaac at the moment.
And Glenn's certainly a bit more aggressive in his movement. Isaac staying firmly planted on the seat, just keeping that steady effort. He's probably coming fairly close to the last few calories right now.
Yeah, he came in about a minute. Okay, wow. Yeah, so about a minute on the bike, it seems like. So that's a very good effort on the bike.
And here's Glenn Race trying to power through, firmly in 2nd place right now.
Man,
For
Glenn's
the latest in
got
obstacle course racing news, race results, and live race coverage, be sure to follow the OCR Report on Instagram. If you're looking for the full results from today's race, follow at the OCR Report on Instagram today.
Now, Xander, this is what I'm looking forward to, man. Can these 3 gentlemen, Jeremiah, Jack, and Mark, pull each other in to catch Glenn? Because Glenn is a little bit by himself on an island right now, right? He's kind of that midway between. Man, Jeremiah's getting it. Can these gentlemen catch up to Glenn? Glenn could be jeopardizing a podium spot right now as well, too. So it'll be interesting to see at this finish. But Jeremiah just crushed that bike. Wow.
And there's Jack Bauer and Mark Polzin trying to stay steady and a pace that they can sustain without giving up too much ground. You see Jeremiah in the background coming out of the station. So he is now putting a bit of a gap on Mark and Jack, although Mark is now out in 4th, and Jack's still working here on this assault bike.
Yeah, you could see where Jeremiah made that 15-second gap to close in maybe on Glenn. Now, does that compromise his 8th run or not? That is what we're about to find out.
And Jeremiah also made a bit of a move on the farmer's carry, too, when they had those splits pulled up. I think he was a 38-second, and both Jack and Mark were about 44, 45, which doesn't seem like a lot, but 7 seconds on the farmer's carry is a ton of time.
That's huge.
And so if Jeremiah, is in a position to keep cranking down, he might give Glenn a run for his money here in these final couple of stations.
It's very obvious. I think Jeremiah is definitely one of the stronger athletes out here, and he's making that known. But it'd be interested to see how he is on this runs too. So 2nd place still up for grabs.
And here's Isaac Sanderson on the dead ball wallovers. continuing to just keep that effort steady. And you can see that he's, this is a station where it's not necessarily difficult, but it can be a little bit deceptive. You want to make sure that you're not giving up too much time as you step around. And obviously you don't want to have to double clutch the dead ball either, but Isaac is certainly making smooth work of this.
Yeah, he's looking good. He should... Oh, wow, Glenn. Okay, I was going to say Isaac will probably be out of the station before Glenn shows up, but it seems like maybe he'll be towards the end there. So Glenn's not too far behind. Glenn very well could get a PR today, and I think he's very well on pace for that.
Glenn came in at about 22:34, so we'll keep an eye on that to see how much of a gap he has on Jeremiah, who should be coming in here momentarily.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the difference was when Glenn came into the bike compared to Jeremiah coming into the bike. There's Jeremiah. Okay. Oh, and wow, Mark caught Jeremiah. Wow. So Mark is clearly moving a little bit faster on the runs than Jeremiah is.
And that's what can happen. We saw Jeremiah working real hard on the bike, and sometimes, yes, that can give you an advantage in time, but what does it cost you on the subsequent run? Mark may be a bit steadier on the bike, and now they're essentially neck and neck with Jack Bauer maybe 10 seconds behind.
Yeah, even Jack, man, what a great run after that assault bike. That's awesome, putting himself right back in that third place battle.
So nothing is comfortable at this point of the race, but Glenn, will say, is in a solid second place still, kind of sustained through that 8th run and this station. I think Glenn's in a spot where he can finish strong and get that second place position, but the question becomes, is he ready to get a new PR? Can he finish, a bit quicker than he did last time? We'll see. Isaac continuing to just make quick work of all these stations. It's nice now having his time's up on the board. Again, there were some issues with his timing chip earlier, but that just goes to show you right there the kind of fitness and ability he's at right now, where he's putting in 7 to 10 seconds here on station number 8, and that type of a gap just adds up over time.
Absolutely, and I would argue to say that something we can't see here, that he's probably put in the fastest run splits as well too, which is why he's so far ahead. To be able to be the fastest runner and potentially the best DEKA station worker out there as well too, if you want to call it that, just means you're on another level right now.
Yeah, it's only been 2 races, but Isaac is nearly a minute faster than anyone else who's towed the line so far this year. His 29:41, Colin Stiefer a 30:34 in the season opener. Now, we haven't seen some of the previous season's heavy hitters yet, but Isaac is making a statement through these 2 races that, hey, he is someone who's going to be there. And if you're a Rich Ryan or a David Magida or Ryland Shattuck, Ryan Kent, whoever decides to toe the line here in DEKA FIT this year, you're going to have to watch out for Isaac, because he's definitely here to stay.
Yeah, last year I mentioned that his name, he was the dark horse last year, right? Very unpredictable, wasn't sure, not familiar with his name, who is he, where's he come from, all that type of stuff. But this man is definitely now a household name, and anytime he shows up to any race, he is going to put on a show, and he has to be respected as a contender in any race that he does.
So 29:41 was Isaac Sanderson's time a couple of weeks ago. And the top 3 all-time... I was going to say the top 3 all-time...
Go ahead, Sanders. Sorry.
I was going to say there have been at least 3 guys under 29 in history.
Okay.
Ryland Shattuck, 28-28. Ryan Kent, 28-38. Rich Ryan, 28-52. So Isaac has some work to do to get there, but he's got a chance possibly at a PR. We'll see. I think he has at least one more length here.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. I think he's on his 4th right now, actually. And then he would have to run, let's say, a 1:30, 500, which I know it's the last run, and then 20 more burpees. Doesn't look like maybe sub 29 is in the cards, but if this is his 5th one, maybe. Okay, it was his 5th one. Oh, wow, I was wrong. Okay. Come on, Isaac. Get moving, man. He very well set him up for a PR, though, for sure. He could definitely get a PR today.
Definitely, yeah. So again, he's got about a minute and 20 seconds shy of the world record. That's not going to happen unless he somehow pulls out one of the fastest 500 splits of all time and then bangs out burpees. But yeah, more than about 2.5 minutes to work with the time he's set. Again, and essentially a solo effort. I mean, Glenn has been there in terms of on the stations with him at the same time, but the gaps have been strong throughout the race. So Isaac, again, putting in a very strong solo effort, a very good chance to go sub 30 for the second race in a row.
Man, Xander, look at the blue socks. That's John Howard over there. This man is moving. He is putting himself right there in that battle for third place. Look at this battle between 5 men, between second and third, excuse me.
Yeah, Mark Polzin, Jeremiah Mahan, Jack Bauer.
Okay, Glenn's done. All right, Glenn, this is second place is yours to lose at this point, buddy. So just be consistent with this run, knock out those 20 burpees like you know how to, and you can solidify yourself. Now, I wonder if he can get a PR today, though.
The time to watch for Glenn is 30:50, so he's got a chance at it.
Let's see who comes out on top right here with the sleds. It's hard to know where they're at exactly. But John Howard is moving that sled.
And I'm wondering if he's still a length behind or if he's on the same push as Jack and Jeremiah are. Mark Polzin has made a bit of a move, it seems. It's hard to tell because we were focused on Isaac and Glenn when all these guys came in. Not 100% sure which length they're on, but we'll see as Mark is now done. So Mark Polzin is out, Jack out right behind him. Wow.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Here we go. All right, it's going to come down to the burpees, man.
Yeah, we've got a burpee fest coming up as Isaac Sanderson is finishing off his day, well on his way to a second consecutive win and a good chance of going sub 30 again.
And Isaac, he's feeling it right now. He is feeling it. This is his season right now. This is his moment. Back-to-back wins. Definitely well-deserved. This man puts in a lot of training hours. He is definitely going to be the breakthrough athlete of the year. Man, look out for the next race. Maybe DEKA FIT Austin, DEKA FIT Norcal, maybe your future High Rocks races. I'm not sure which one's his next, but he is going to be making a name. Wow. So almost 30, almost.
Right around 30 minutes. Again, the clock you see on the screen is unofficial, so we'll get the full split at some point later on. Either way, another strong race for Isaac Sanderson. Pretty much 20 seconds more or less slower than his time 2 weeks ago. Again, basically a solo effort. Glenn Race here in second place, working hard, but is surely going to have that second place spot for a second week in a row.
Yeah, it looks like Isaac and Glenn are going to be slower than their times just 2 weeks ago, but that's okay. Their efforts are still the same nonetheless. 20 seconds you can make or gain right there. Glenn is not going to be too far off for his PR. Oh, here comes Mark in third. All right, here we go.
So here we go. Mark Polzin in
third
place. Jack Bauer right next to him in fourth.
Oh, man. All right, so Mark didn't come full extension. I wonder if they no-repped him. That's going to be something to look out for.
Again, the movement standards have been re-emphasized this year as we see Jack Bauer there in the T-shirt in the foreground. Glenn Race finishing, another solid effort for Glenn. Similar gap from last race's performance as Isaac had. Very strong effort, low 31 for Glenn. But now all eyes are on this battle for the podium.
Yep. This is it right
as Jeremiah Mahan is now in the zone in fifth. But this is between Mark and Jack to see who snags that third place position.
Mark probably has a 1-2 burpee lead on Jack, and he's closest to the finish line as well, too. Jack has to be very careful on his 20th rep that he does not throw his ram roller and start running. He's going to have to place it down. Mark's in a better position right now, so Jack's really got to start moving. Oh,
surely in the last half of these reps, Mark Polzin working hard. Jack Bauer next to him.
He's hurting. Oh, Mark is hurting. Let's see if he can hold on. Oh.
And they're both done, and wow.
Oh, man.
A photo finish. I think
finish.
Mark might have just barely gotten it because he was closer.
Wow.
Jack was moving faster, but I think that 10 feet that Mark was closer to the finish line might have allowed him to sneak through, but we'll get the official time. What a battle. 3, 4, and 5 throughout most of the race, and you can see it right there. I mean, they left absolutely everything in that burpee zone.
Where's the instant replay when you need it? Wow, that was a heck of a finish between Jack and Mark. And then, and there's John Howard. Nice. A good finish for all these gentlemen. Wow.
There's John Howard, I believe, in 6th place, worked his way up through the field. Jeremiah Mahan fell back a bit of the guys that he had been battling, but a strong finish for him as well. Max Fennell, you see
Max
here.
Fennell's going to sum up for good PR. He, I believe his fastest time is 34:41, so this is a great improvement for Max right here, which is one of the best, if I'm not mistaken, triathletes or bikers that has Spartan or DEKA has introduced this sport to. So.
Yeah, Max, a guy that's no stranger to competing in DEKA FIT, but yeah, coming from that endurance background, he competed in DEKA Strong World Championship last year. And
man, what a finish. What a finish, man. So, I don't want to be that guy, but I'll be that guy. It could have been the camera angle, but Mark didn't look like he was fully extending there at the end because his fatigue, the man was hurting. Yeah, and the ram roller didn't stand either at the end. I don't know what the rules are and clarifications are on all that. I know Jack and Mark, I'm sure they don't care. They just they had a great battle. They don't want to take away anybody's gain. You can't really, it's like the last second shot. You can't blame for missing the last second shot in a basketball game. You had a whole 48 or 47 minutes and 59 seconds of the game that you could have made or break anything, right? So, it's hard to argue this. This is where standards come in a little bit more. Hopefully, by the time we get to the World Championships, athletes are a lot better about it. But when it comes down to the last few seconds, standards still matter. Critiquing still matters. Judging definitely matters. And, sometimes one volunteer will care, another one won't, right? So, nonetheless, I don't want to take the effort away from Mark. If, in fact, he did get 3rd place today, he deserved it. Well done.
And especially when it's a tight battle like that, because it's easy to see Isaac Sanderson with very clean burpees and strong form because, A, he was running so smoothly throughout the entirety of the race, and he's all alone and knows that, hey, I don't need a PR today. I can take those extra, half a second or whatever on each rep to make sure it's clean. But, when you're battling for podium position, a little bit of prize money, and, potentially world championship qualification, it's easy to see where that movement just becomes a little bit more borderline. But it was great to see that battle between Mark and Jack. Even though, like last week, 1 and 2 were pretty much all alone, what a battle we had from 3rd to 6th as we see Dustin Needham here finishing out his day. A strong showing for him as well.
Yeah, still a fun battle to watch. It put great entertainment for all of us. I couldn't have asked for more. So I hope there's no penalties and stuff. I hate that for people. I mean, I get it. It is what it is. That's the rules. But I hate that for people. But still put on a great show for us, and I love those finishes.
Yeah. And one other thing is that at the very end of the race, Mark kind of dropped the ram and didn't necessarily stand it up. So we'll see if that again plays into it when we get the official times a bit later on.
I can't recall if Jack didn't stand his up either. Okay. So Jack did, and then it fell over, which, from my understanding, reading the rules, that happens, and that's okay, as long as you don't throw it, of course. So I don't know. I think this will be definitely a rule call for Yancey and everybody.
So our boots on the ground, Jason Dupree, producing today's broadcast, he's mentioning they are reviewing kind of the end of that race to to see if there was full extension and if those standards were met. So we'll see what the outcome of that is. But again, that doesn't take anything away from the battle we had. I mean, Isaac was out front from the beginning. Glenn was solidly in second place the whole race. But how about that back and forth between Jack, Mark, Jeremiah Mahan as well? It seemed like at different positions, we had different guys kind of taking the lead. Jeremiah made a big surge through the farmer's carry and bike, but then Mark kind of was steady. Jack hung in there, ran his race, and ended up either third or fourth. Again, we don't have the official time yet, but a tremendous battle. And if the kind of middle of the top 10, that third through sixth, is going to give us this level of competition at this point in the season, we've got some exciting stuff in store later on, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it when races like this, it's crowded at the end. Because I really feel like kind of at the beginning, maybe it solidified it. Who's that one? Who's the second? Who's the third? Races like this of endurance, it can backpedal a bit. It's like watching a marathon. It's very obvious who the winner is going to be when they come into the last minute, or the last mile, or even the last 5 miles for that matter. But this is where it gets so much more exciting because everyone is now training for this. So everyone is getting so similar in times, which comes down to the last little bit, and the last few stations do in fact matter, opposed to the middle stations or even the beginning stations of a race.
And that's something we talked about a bit at the beginning when we were going over the course map. But one of the key components of hybrid racing, at least in the sort of the most popular forms being DEKA and then also Hyrox, of course, the race components are the same every time. So what you're going to get. It's so much different from a lot of these athletes who come with an OCR background, where one of the exciting things about OCR was the unpredictability and the obstacle order and placement. Whereas with hybrid, it's the exact opposite, where it's the exact same components in the same order. You know exactly what you're going to get. And that allows you to be precise in your strategy and gain experience through these races and through your training. And that's what we're seeing now is, into this sort of third or fourth year of DEKA FIT. There are some athletes who have been doing it from the beginning, 2020, 2021. Other athletes are a bit newer, but getting good reps. And it's just raising the quality of competition across the board. And we should have a fun women's race here coming up in a few minutes as we see those athletes in the warm-up zone kind of waiting for their race to start here in just a bit.
Yeah, Xander, this is going to be a fun one to watch because there's a couple of names that probably most people at home are pretty familiar with, Julie Best being one of them, and then, of course, Michelle Navarro as well. And then Jessica Cavilla, I hope I pronounced that right. She's also somebody who has podiumed before. I believe she podiumed Norcal last year, or has at least been around there. And then also, too, Julie Best and Jessica were back and forth at the DEKA FIT World Championships last year, finishing 14th, 15th. Julie Best got the best of Jessica in that one. But Michelle Navarro, I think, is really going to separate herself from the pack today. I think she's kind of going to be in her own race, and this could be her potential first DEKA FIT win. And then it's going to be a fun battle to watch between Julie and Jessica. But the rest of the field, I think, is anyone's grab that could be potentially getting third.
Yeah, they're starting their call-outs here for this elite women's race. Again, in terms of previous times, Michelle Navarro is a cut above just in terms of their history, as now we have Jack Bauer, who has emerged from behind the scenes to toe the line for the first time this season. Jack, we're actually not sure what position you came in because it was that photo finish at the very end, but it seemed like you ran your race, left absolutely everything out there. How did it go for you?
Yeah, I think Mark got me at the line by I tried extending my left wrist, thinking because that was where my timing chip was, but that hurt so much, that battle. Honestly, I don't know where the cameras were.
I think we're having audio issues, Jack. Yeah. If you can hear us, we cannot hear you. So
yeah,
they can't hear me. Okay, sorry.
Working on behind the scenes, you see Jason Dupree there
next
to Jack. There we go.
You hear me now?
All right, now we've got Jack Bauer. So,
okay.
Jack, I don't know what you're about to say, but you could say it again. Either way, we saw you kind of come out, run your own race, leave absolutely everything out there. How did it feel to be back in the arena here to open the season?
Yeah, I definitely love dramatic finishes in Norcal, I guess, because last year I had that close one with Jeremiah. He got the best of me last year, and I think Mark got me by like 6 inches today. I think that I reached my left arm over to try to get the timing chip ahead, but he got just ahead of me there. And, it was an awesome finish. I kind of went into the race thinking Mark, he ran 31 mid, or I think he was like 31.15 or something last year. And it's going to, people keep adding or joining the sport, and it's going to be harder and harder to get that fast time. So I was like, I don't even care how much it hurts early on. I'm just going to go in and try to stick with him. And Jeremiah went with us as well. And the two of them on that air bike, they got me by like 30 seconds. And I'm like, it's part of the plan. If I kill myself here, I'm screwed. And I just tried to gain 10 seconds back on each of those next runs and stations. And I wish I gained like 10.2 seconds because I might have got ahead of Mark.
Jack, you're always complimenting other people and everything, man. Put them to the side. How do you personally feel being back, and how does your body feel? Do you feel like it responded well to the injury that you have overcome? Do you feel like you're your old self? Do you feel like there's more to gain? Maybe we always feel like that, but walk us through that, man. How does it feel?
Yeah. So people, I don't know if you mentioned on the podcast, but you see Robin skating around getting all the coverage for DEKA. I got in a rollerblading accident last year, and I actually broke my kneecap, and I wasn't able to run for close to 4 months or so. And I ended up just cross training through it once I was able to, and ended up running at DEKA Worlds last year. But I've had like 6 months of pretty consistent training. I'm running 3-4 times a week, which is getting back to the old stuff. But honestly, I'm feeling fit, and the more important thing is I just stayed engaged and didn't when a gap happened, I didn't let it bother me. And I think, to me, that's a bigger win than running a fast time, because it seems like the times, unless your name is Isaac or Glenn this year, or Lauren Weeks, they're a little bit slower because you have to do full extension, and they're really judging that pretty harshly. So the times are 10-15 seconds slower across the board, it seems. But I feel like the fitness is there compared to where it used to be, but the mental edge of just not giving up, that's what I'm really happy about.
Good, man. Good. That's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a great battle, between you and Jeremiah and Mark. And it seemed like each of you had your own race plan, and at some points one would pull ahead or make a move. We saw Jeremiah really hammer the farmer's carry and, of course, the bike.
Oh, yeah.
But both you and Mark were able to make up for it. And I think that's the interesting thing about, as this sport continues to mature, these athletes have been in hybrid for, 2, 3, 4 years, is that people have their own strengths, and it all kind of can end up in a back and forth battle like that.
Totally. Yeah. Once I saw Jeremiah take off on the farmer's carry, I was like, oh crap, that's what I usually do. And I was like, maybe it's just not my day. And then on that next run, I was like, okay, you gained like 6-7 seconds on me. I just want to reach the air bike in contact with these guys, because then essentially the race is a fresh start, because we're all there, and it's just, we have the same amount of time till the finish line. And then all those guys went like 50-something seconds on the bike, and I took 1:18 or something. And I'm like, well, I just lost 30 seconds. But I'm like, don't give up. See what happens. Maybe we'll have a really exciting burpee off. And that's exactly what happened. So can't really be mad about the effort that got put in there. I thought it was super entertaining. And that's the cool thing about these hybrid races. You get amazing battles like that. And then you have stellar performances like what we saw Isaac at the front doing, and Glenn was in no man's land. I don't know what his finishing time was, but it was, just people are getting faster and faster. We just see the women take off right now. It's going to be a fantastic race for the women right here as well, but I'm just so excited. I want to go and cheer them on. Yeah,
man. Hey, congratulations, Jack. I still believe they're reviewing this potential finish as far as finishing.
Oh.
From what we were seeing, maybe Mark didn't go full extension as well, too. We don't know exactly what they're doing for all that. That's something, obviously, you can look back on the cameras and the live feed for yourself as well. So, man, I don't want to knock you off for saying that you haven't completed your 3rd year in a row of getting 3rd place at Norcal yet. I believe that is yet to be seen. But either way, Jack, that a hell of a performance from you, man. Glad to see you back out here, and excited to see what you're capable of for the rest of the year, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Xander and Luke. Yeah, and whatever happens. You guys are the ones who alerted me to that right there. I just was like, oh crap, Mark is 2 burpees ahead of me. I just need to try to catch him. So
sure,
whatever happens. But I'm glad it was a fun battle.
Cool, man. Good to have you back, Jack.
Awesome. Yep. See you guys. Have fun watching the women's race.
All right. Thank you.
All right, great to have Jack Bauer join us on the mic. And speaking of that women's race, well, it's well underway.
Yeah.
This first run is most of the way complete as we see the front pack here. And we've got the athletes we expected to see are at the front, and what I'm excited to see is maybe this becomes a closer battle at the top instead of Isaac and Glenn pulling away. There's Jessica Velia, DEKA FIT PR in the 36s, competed in World Championships last year, just like Jack Bauer, third place at this Sacramento race last year. And then Julie Best, one spot ahead of Jessica at World Championship last year.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think this race is going to be a little bit more congested throughout the whole thing. Maybe Michelle Navarro, which is pictured right now on your screen at home, definitely has the fastest DEKA FIT time out of all the ladies, maybe by a good minute, but doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to win by a minute, right? Just because you have PR. We have no idea what everybody's fitness is at the moment, and I believe this is every lady's first race of the season as well, too. So it's anybody's game at this point, and I hope for an exciting race throughout the whole entirety.
Yeah, this is definitely, at least for these top three women, their first race of this 2024 season. Didn't see any of them either SoCal or Knoxville back a couple of months ago. So the top 3 or 4 are already out of this station. We'll start getting these splits here in a bit and see how this unfolds.
It looked like Julie Best took out in first place. Michelle Navarro, I think, roughly in third. Not sure second place. That could have been Haley Broggen. I believe Jessica is blonde-haired. So, and then also, too, another name out there, Allie Wright is out there as well, too. And she is a OCR legend. She's done multiple OCRs and podiumed in them. So I think this is her first ever DEKA FIT, or maybe second. And it'll be interesting to see where her fitness is as well, too.
Yeah, she's someone who's podiumed a lot of races, especially in sort of that California area, relatively local. We see this front pack all together. That's 4 athletes within a second or two of each other, with 5th place just behind. So this is setting up for exciting competition early on.
Wow, Michelle definitely caught up on the run. I think Michelle just completed a marathon, if I'm not mistaken. I follow her on social media, so she is definitely known to be a runner, and she's got some wheels on her for sure too. So I'm not surprised to see her out in front on these runs. It's the stations that I believe the other ladies could possibly make a run on her if they want to contend for first place today.
Yeah, Michelle, a little bit of a taller athlete compared to the others in this group, and using those long strides here to not put in a huge gap, but at least set the pace.
Shout out to the Rabbits today for hanging out with the men and holding up with the women right now, because I know these women are not running a slow pace by any means.
Thank you to our OCR Report members for making this race live stream possible. For less than $5 a month, you can help us live stream races like this every single week. Go to patreon.com/the OCR Report to become a member today.
All right, so it'll be interesting to see what type of paces we're going to see here on the rower. You know, we don't necessarily have a Lauren Weeks or Meg Jacoby or even a Carly Wopat on the rower, right? So I don't expect to really see a maybe 150 to 2 minute split, maybe more 205. Yep, just have to call it 205 to 210. And I think that's a very conservative effort. Even 2 minutes, I think, is great. I know these ladies are definitely capable of going sub 2 in the 500. But I think to be conservative and to make sure you're retaining a great effort is going to be right around 205, 210.
So there's Michelle Navarro and Julie Best. Michelle was definitely in first place coming in. We've got some other athletes in this pack on the other side of this zone. So at least one of them is rowing right around 2 minutes.
Yeah, neither lady in this field has won a DEKA FIT. And I believe, Xander, you and I called it when Michelle Navarro finished in her first podium, which I believe she got second to whoever she competed against, probably Lauren Weeks or somebody. So she has been on the podium before. No other lady in this field has. They've all competed in the Elite World Championships, most of them. And Michelle, which finished 10th at the World Championships last year. So this is awesome. I love races like this where there is more of the mid-pack that we additionally see in the big races. be in the front of the pack, because we can finally shine a spotlight on them, because they are just as great of athletes as anybody else, and they deserve to be recognized.
And another name we haven't mentioned yet, but who was showing up in that list of splits near the top, is Megan Jones, who was like Chaz Hatton, competed in the age group category last year. She was third place in the 30 to 34 age group in last year's World Championship, Jessica. And now stepping into the elite field is Jessica, and now Julie, and that may be Megan with her, as Michelle takes it a bit more conservative, comes out in fourth place after the rower, but maybe we'll use that running ability to catch back up.
Yeah, Megan Jones that you mentioned with the age group, I love seeing people that do well in their age group the year prior decide to take that extra step and leap into the elite field to better themselves as athletes, or even just see how they compare to others. I think that's awesome, right? And, whether she does well or not, she knows at least where she stands, and then therefore can maybe even do well at the end of the year back in her age group, even better, or just or better herself throughout the rest of the year and become world champ.
So now we have our first real gap of this race forming with Jessica Caviglia.
Yeah, wow.
You see there at least 6 seconds ahead of every other athlete on the rower. So Katie Dambrosia, not a name that we had necessarily on our start list, but she's putting her nose in it in second place right there with Michelle Navarro coming through these runs. So, yeah, we're off.
I wonder if she's the dark-haired with the ponytails that's been running. So it looks like she got some wheels on her. Jessica is running very smoothly right now, even after that 207 rower. She's the only one that went sub 210. She put herself a gap. I'm sure she knows Michelle is a very strong runner, so I know she knows she's going to be breathing down her neck. So Jessica's got to make her moves on these stations, and she's got to put Michelle away early and make Michelle work harder than maybe she's used to.
And remember, those times you see on the screen right now, that includes the transition in and out of the zone, because you cross the timing mat at the edge of the zone. So a 207 total time is right around a 2 flat in terms of actual rowing pace. So she was definitely getting after it on the rower, but seems to be moving well heading into these box step overs.
Oh, wow. Okay, there's Katie.
And then Michelle right there behind her, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Xander, I think we're in for a very exciting race in its entirety today. I really do. I don't think one single lady is going to be pulling away, at least not anytime soon. The bike obviously could be the difference maker, as it usually is.
And you can see Jessica with that efficient movement, whereas Katie is turning around a little bit more. So that's something that, could lead to a bit of a gap forming coming out of this station. As Jessica's out, you see Katie, Michelle, and Julie. Katie and Michelle out together. So this 1, 2, 3 is all still within striking range here.
It is.
And Julie Best right behind. Julie is an athlete with the amount of experience she has. She's probably not afraid to let second, third place go a little bit. You can see her with the fastest box step over split there with 36 seconds. So she's someone who, just like Jack Bauer, maybe has her own race plan, is not going to get roped into what anyone else wants to do, and that could pay off for her later on.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you notice, her box over is significantly faster, 8 seconds faster. I mean, that's huge. 6 seconds faster. That's big. I mean, that's you can easily make that up on a run as well. But 6 seconds of box over is a huge difference. You usually only see maybe 2 to 4 second difference. And that Katie, I don't know her personally, but she looks like she's a very solid runner. She's doing really well right now.
Yeah, she and Michelle came out of that last station pretty close together.
Yeah, Jessica's looking smooth right now. Jessica's PR coming into this is a 36:29, and Julie Best's PR is 36:21. It's only an 8-second difference. Now, I can't recall last year at the World Championships if this was a very similar scenario where Jessica is a great first half runner, Julie is a better second half runner, and then we start seeing where the showdown at the end occurs. But, you know, this is their first races of the year. So, you know, they had all off season to train for this, maybe this particular moment to qualify for Worlds. So I would love to see every single lady get a PR today.
And it's interesting, you know, at various points in the field, how these types of rivalries can form between athletes of similar ability. We heard Jack talking about it, how he and Jeremiah were in a battle here at this race last year, and they find themselves in a very similar position here in 2024. You've got Jessica and Julie, who were back and forth at World Championship last year, and now Jessica's out in front a bit here, but Michelle was close to them at World Championships last year as well. All those athletes, with someone new entering the mix as well, find themselves, you know, within 20 seconds of each other here on zone number 4. So, you know, it's great to see kind of who we would consider to be kind of mid-pack in a World Championship type elite field here at the front of this race, given who's here today, and it's exciting to see them up front. That's something that, you know, is talked about a lot in the hybrid space of what happens to the race if the very top competitors aren't there, because it gives athletes who maybe wouldn't be in the lead ordinarily a chance to run from the front, a chance to get after it, and we're seeing Jessica Kabilia doing just that here.
Yep. Giving their friends and family something to watch later on YouTube, so they get all the camera spotlight opposed to maybe the usual household names we're used to. Xander, notice with the women when they do the med ball setups, usually, unless maybe Carly Wopat is just a good example because she's so tall, most ladies have to do a full setup to come up. I mean, I know they do a 4-pound or 6-pound less ball than the men, but still, coming up to a full setup just to launch that ball up to a 4-foot target is night and day difference between where most men can just extend their arms and just tap and go. And so these ladies are taxing their core and their hips, getting right into, like we mentioned in the men's race, the skier, which is a very similar motion. So these ladies, you know, most of them, they train this way anyways. I would argue to say most of these ladies have a stronger core than the men. So,
yeah, not everyone has, again, like we mentioned during the men's race, you know, Kevin Gregory, Bubbles, able to basically just like do a half sit up and then tap the target. And, you know, some athletes in the women's field, like Carly Wopat, over 6 feet tall, can do the same thing. But for the majority, yeah, it's that full sit up and the throw. And that's a taxing movement, you know, because it's right before the skier. How about Julie Best making a bit of a move? She's someone who let 1, 2, and 3 get a bit ahead of her early on, but then came away with the fastest med ball sit-up time. And so we'll see if that plays out. She's, you know, not moving as fast on the runs. You see her coming across your screen right there in 4th place. But if she's able to work harder and faster on the stations, that might help her, you know, close a gap later on.
Yeah, I'm going to go out there on a limb and say this is Katie's first DEKA fit, but she looks like a very strong runner coming into this. And as you can tell from her med ball setup time, the weight definitely got to her. So I don't imagine the skier will slow her down, but I have a feeling the farmer carry and the assault bike is when Julie is going to be a little more experienced in that and then pass Katie. Let's see if Katie can hang on, though.
So our top athletes are now all on the skier.
Yeah, this is the same thing as kind of the rowing. You know, with the skier, you saw that Isaac was, about a 150, 155, roughly, or 152, I think, to be exact. I think that's appropriate for most elite men. Now, when you think of elite female, I usually just kind of add 10 seconds to that for the most part. I know these women can pull a low 205, but I think 210 is going to be a little bit more appropriate for this motion, or 215, as you can see on your screen right now from Katie. It's not taxing enough on your arms and your quads and even your aerobic capacity to get ready for that run. And now this is a great opportunity maybe for Julie or maybe for Michelle. If they want to start pushing the boundaries with Katie, they could push the pace a little bit, but again, you know, hopefully it doesn't tax them too much. So Julie's doing a low 2. Julie's trying to make a move right here.
And we saw that a little bit on the med ball sit-ups, but now Julie Best putting in that effort here on the skier. I'd imagine Jessica's still going to be in first place coming out of this station, but Julie has an opportunity to make a move.
I think our rabbit was pointing. I kind of saw him off to the other camera that wasn't shown as far as he's looking at the meters on the screen that we typically can't see. I think he said Julie was in 3rd or 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
The one challenge of this zone is that, you know, we can get a zoom in on one athlete's pace and time at a time, but it's hard to tell exactly where they all are in relation to each other.
Right.
But you do see here Jessica and Julie both still hammering away on these 500 meters. And while you're watching today's broadcast, hit that subscribe button. The OCR Report on YouTube is the only place to watch race live streams all year long, so subscribe now.
Give my boy Jason Dupree, OCR Report, some love, everybody. They definitely deserve it.
So Jessica maintains her lead. She's out of this station in first place. You see her on the inset screen.
Looking good.
Onto this run, looking smooth.
Oh, wow, Julie in 2nd. Or unless Katie left, and I just didn't see Katie. But Julie ahead of Michelle.
Momentarily. But yeah,
Wow.
Julie Best made up at least one spot, if not 2.
Yeah, look at that.
So it does
look
look like
split.
Yeah, Katie out in 2nd, but Julie Best making up 14 seconds on the run.
Wow. Yeah, Julie is definitely making it up on the stations today. As you can tell, Michelle already passed Julie on the run. They weren't too far off when they were leaving out of the station anyways, but Michelle is clearly a stronger runner. But Julie knows she has Michelle's numbers on the stations right now, so it looks like Katie maybe still in 2nd, right in front of Michelle and Julie.
It does look like she is, yeah. Similar gaps, it seems like, between Katie, Julie, and Michelle. But, Luke, I tell you what, this is going to set up for an exciting air bike situation.
It is.
Because we've got Katie, who's probably the less experienced athlete, at least from what we've seen. You've got Julie, who's been working hardest on the stations, and Michelle kind of in the middle. So it's almost like the unknown quantity is leading this group. The one who's been hammering the stations is in 3rd of the 3, and Michelle's in the middle. So this could be a situation where they all sort of come together, and then whoever emerges from that bike first might be in a good position to take 2nd place here.
Yeah, it's been a minute, so I believe I've said that the assault bike can be the difference maker in the race, and I think this race today is going to be the deciding factor, at least for first place. Maybe not for the whole podium and its contention, but definitely for first place.
100-meter farmer's carry. Jessica, our race leader, who kind of broke away from the pack, I think, on the 2nd or maybe 3rd run, and has built that gap. But Katie moving very well through this farmer's carry as well.
Yeah, this is good. I figured just with Katie's build, she looks like a runner's build. Michelle Navarro there in 3rd. Katie's build looks like, a runner's build. So farmer carry can definitely set some of that back just because of the lack of overall strength. But she looks like she's moving very well.
And that's the thing with DEKA FIT, is that the strength components, the weight itself, farmer's carry is scale between men and women. The weight necessarily isn't going to be a huge barrier unless you're coming in, with very little strength training experience whatsoever. It's more moving that weight in a compromised position after all the other work that you've done.
Right.
But you see right here, 2, 3, and 4, all very strong. Of course, Michelle and Julie have that experience as Michelle Navarro comes out in 3rd place. But Katie, again, a bit of an unknown quantity, at least from our perspective, and she's right there, 54 seconds. All 4 of these top athletes within 3 seconds of each other on the farmer's carry.
Yeah, no difference there. Congrats to Katie for sticking up with that. I really thought that was going to be a station that slowed her down. I was wrong. But this station 7 is where this is what I want to see right now. So let's see what these ladies can do. I have a feeling Julie Best, maybe even Jessica. Here's the thing. Jessica's fitness right now could be ready and primed and ready to go into this bike and just hammer this thing. And she very well could even separate herself even more. I'm surprised to see this big of a gap between her and Michelle Navarro. I'm just going to be real honest. I was not expecting that at all coming into this race.
Yeah, we mentioned the PR times, and again, this early in the season, you can only put so much stock in those, but, in their history, Michelle about a minute faster than both Julie and Jessica the third fastest time of those three athletes, but she's certainly not racing like the third best of the three right now. She has taken this race out and sustained, and excited to see what's coming up here, because she's, I believe, coming around her last lap before heading into the bike. And this is where things could change very quickly for this top four.
Yeah, this is where if you think your race is going great, it can end very poorly. The station is known for that. Unless you are Kevin Gregory himself, there is really no such thing as a fast assault bike time. It's more so just you get on that horse and just survive. That's it. Try not to get bucked off in the process. So she didn't change the bike height at all. She's setting very low on the bike, which most women, usually 5'2", maybe 5'5", can maybe get away with it. But what that does to your quads, though, what it does to your quadriceps, it burns and blows them up like no other, though. So I don't know if that was a smart strategy or play. We'll see how it feels on the run afterwards.
Yeah, we saw that happen to Morgan Schulz in the first race of the season. Morgan, one of the taller athletes in the women's field, she, I don't think, took the time to adjust, and you could tell she was struggling. Now, in that case, she was very far ahead of the rest of the field and didn't end up mattering. But, yeah, getting the bike to that height, it's a small thing, but it can make a huge difference. You see Michelle just adjusting it enough to where she looks, fairly comfortable being a slightly taller athlete on that bike.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's very important. I think you should take the 2 to 5 seconds to do it. It is worth it, because what that's going to do to compromise your run afterwards is tremendous. It's big. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe this was her strategy all along. She didn't want to take transition time. But she doesn't even look like she's moving that quick on the bike because of being so low. Not to mention, your legs don't go to full extension, which you can't use that drive and that power that you typically can when the seat's a little bit higher.
I tell you what, Julie Best looks focused right now. We've talked about her getting after it on the stations, and it seems like she is moving most efficiently. It's hard to tell what that means in terms of wattage and output, but she's definitely the most controlled athlete on this bike right now.
Yeah, she's definitely a strong athlete, I think, from just a pure strength standpoint. So this is her moment where maybe Michelle stays ahead of her, but I think this is where she either catches Katie or passes Katie. The good thing about the bike is as long as you're pedaling, you're going to accumulate calories. Oh, wow, Katie's still in second. So that's where I was getting at with Katie. Even though you may not be a faster assault bike time than most, as long as you just keep pedaling, you're still going to keep advancing.
And how about that? Only 5 seconds separating Jessica and Katie. Now, we mentioned Jessica was not in an ideal position, but so Michelle Navarro does make up some time. But wow, I think Katie had a bigger gap than we might have thought coming into this station, because Michelle made up 10 seconds but still came out well behind her. Now the question becomes, how much did these athletes, lay it out there on the bike, and what does that mean for their next couple of runs and stations?
Yeah, kudos to Jessica right now for getting on that bike as low as she did and still maintaining only 4 seconds slower than the fastest bike time right now. I mean, she's going to keep her lead now because of that. But like I mentioned earlier, it's the run and everything afterwards if her quads are feeling it right now. But kudos to her for still holding down a fast one. So.
Yeah, she's still looking smooth on this run. And, Luke, we talked about, maybe the bike is where this race is going to separate and things will change. Well, as it turned out, they all bike within 10 seconds of each other. And I think that just goes to show the level of competition. Katie looking very smooth as well.
Wow, yeah. I would love to know what her background is. She has a running background. I know it. It's just a matter of maybe it's collegiate or not. Yeah, none of these ladies look super compromised after this bike. Jessica looks like she's hauling. Look at that cadence. Wow. Yeah, they're looking awesome right now. I don't think a single lady exerted themselves on that bike whatsoever to make. Honestly, this is going to still make the ending very exciting.
Here we are, zone number 8. Our race leader, Jessica Caviglia, is in that zone. She's maintained a gap on the field, but Katie Dambrosia not too far behind, hanging on to second place right now. We've got Michelle Navarro should be coming in momentarily, as well as Julie Best. So still podium spots up for grabs, still potentially, depending on what happens here in these final couple of stations, the race lead could be up for grabs as well. It's been a strong effort from all 4 of these top ladies so far. Michelle Navarro in 3rd place, coming into the zone now.
Yeah, you know, I didn't time it, but it looked like Katie Katie caught up the gap of Jessica on that last run, because I want to say the time it took for her to get off the bike was a little bit longer than the time when she came in. So Katie definitely was running a little bit faster than Jessica on that last run.
So Julie Best comes in at the same time as Jessica comes out. So it was about 27:32 when Jessica left this zone. So if the camera stays here, we should get a good idea of what that gap is between Jessica and Katie.
Okay, so about 20 seconds. That's definitely doable on 2 runs. I mean, if you can run 10 seconds faster and just maintain the same station time, that is very doable.
And again, based on just sort of running form and frame, we thought that maybe some of the more strength-based zones would be where Katie gave up time. That has not been the case. So this tank push and pull, based on what she's done so far, shouldn't be a problem for her as well, as Michelle Navarro has some work to do if she wants to catch 2nd place.
Absolutely. And then Julie's got some work to do as well, too, to catch Michelle to get 3rd place, right? So I'll be honest, if we had the podium pick, my 2 ladies that I would have picked 2nd and 3rd are right now battling for 3rd and 4th. So I love the no names that are coming into the sport, Katie, and I apologize if you've done this before and I'm just not familiar with you, but this is what makes this sport so exciting, is you always have that wild card who comes in. It could shake up the game a little bit.
I did a little bit of scanning of last year's leaderboard and cannot find Katie's name, at least in DEKA FIT. So this may be her debut, or she's either way been under the radar. Isn't someone that we necessarily expected, but is putting a strong showing out there today for sure.
Speaking of strong showings, man, Jessica, wow. You know, that's another name that I would have probably thrown in the top 3 as well, too, I'm sure, with Michelle and Julie. She is making a statement today, and I would be more than confident to say that she's looking to get a PR today as well, as long as she stays consistent with her runs. As long as she can get out of this station in about 32 and a half minutes, she is definitely on pace for a PR.
Yeah, 36:29 is her PR. Again, not a lot of separation on those dead ball overs. Julie Best, as she has done, the fastest station time, but it seems like these other athletes are able to make up more time on the run, that faster station work isn't really benefiting Julie as much in this race today.
And Katie is moving on those runs. Jessica has got to know that the second she's done with this last, she'll probably be a whole length ahead, potentially, that she has got to move on that last run, because Katie is booking it on these splits.
I think she has a man's weight.
So now 2nd and 3rd are neck and neck, but Katie is at least 1 length ahead. You see Michelle Navarro pushing right there as Katie Dambrosia on the pole.
Yeah, I don't know if the women, I'm sure they changed the resistance. So these are the new Zybex tanks where the resistance crank is just right there in the center. Men are 8, women are 7. The top 2 women went to the male side sleds. On the sleds, they went to the male side, and I don't know if they were set at 8 when they ran in there and did a whole length with it being the men's setting, which is great for Michelle, which can probably move it a little bit and just make up maybe even 5 or 10 seconds right there. I'm sure they changed it though.
Yeah, each of these athletes does have a judge right there, so presumably they're double checking to make sure that that setting is correct now.
Yeah, we don't want an Alondra incident again at the World Championships, where it was set at, I believe, 6 at the time of the sleds. So either way, it looks pretty standardized at the moment. I'm sure the judges were quick to fix that. Everybody's good.
Our top 4 athletes all here on the tank push and pull. And Jessica Kavilia, a solid lead of about 20 seconds after the last station, but there is still plenty of time in this race with how strong Katie has looked. And she's moving with purpose here. You can see her pulling faster than Michelle, although Jessica's out now. So she is on her last run in a very good position to set a PR. 36:29.
Katie's right behind her.
Is her fastest time.
Oh, she's like 10 seconds behind her. Katie caught her on the sled. Wow. Okay. Oh, here we go.
And Katie's running stride looks as smooth. Yeah, her running stride looks as smooth as it has for this entire race.
She has, yeah. Look at that. I mean, how her heel comes all the way up to her butt and everything, how she's pulling off each run. Hamstrings fully engaged. Yeah, she is a fantastic runner. Oh, she's reeling in Jessica though. Oh man, this is gonna be close.
So second place on the big screen, first place on the inset screen right now.
I'm gonna say Jessica holds off on this win only because she's experienced on the burpees. Unless Katie, of course, has been practicing and we just haven't seen it.
This is the final lap around the course for our top 2 athletes. Jessica Kavilia right now in first place. Katie Dambrosia behind her. Has stuck in there, closed the gap a little bit, and it's going to come down to this burpee zone here coming up.
Exciting finishes today, Xander. Exciting finishes. Oh, here we go. All right, see what type of lead Jessica has coming in.
All right, it's about 34.08 when she came in. Wow, Katie almost closed the gap. And she's closer. So we saw this in the men's race where Mark Polzin was closer to the finish than Jack Bauer. And so here we go. Katie Dambrosia is moving well through these first few burpees.
Wow, she is doing great. And you talk about a PR. Man, Jessica is going to put a good 1.5 PR today. So her off-season training has been phenomenal and obviously in her favor. Oh, man. Oh, They're both moving pretty similar, so I think Jessica's got maybe a 2-3 rep lead.
Yeah, again, it was only about 5 or 6 seconds of a gap that Katie closed down to heading into this zone. Jessica might be ahead, but she's got a second or 2 extra to get to the finish line.
Yeah, Katie's moving pretty smooth right now. I think she's at 10. Oh, man. Oh, she does look like she's moving. Oh, no. Oh, here we go. Jessica's slowing down.
Jessica faltering a little bit. Katie is still moving strong. Now she has to go to the knees a little bit. This is going to come down to these last few reps. Can Katie make it all the way up and finish off this upset win? And she will.
Wow.
What a comeback for Katie Dambrosia as she takes down Jessica in the final zone.
I don't want to. Xander, I'm going to be that guy again. You cannot throw the ram roller. That is a no rep. I wonder if they're going to just put a penalty, like a 1-minute penalty or something. Oh,
so that's,
man.
That's, again, part of the emphasis of the rules here this year is twofold. One is full extension of the ram that you see from Michelle, and number 2 is setting the ram down when you finish the last rep, just like with the lunges at the start of the race. It's the same thing here at the very end. And we saw Jessica kind of throw the ram down, and we'll see what that means in terms of overall finishing time.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed
Michelle Navarro looking to at least finish in third place here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure how far Julie's behind. Most people are setting their ram rollers down horizontally. I'm assuming that's okay, opposed to being in the standing position. Everyone's basically doing it. I don't really see anybody being called out for that. I think the idea is, as long as it's just a gentle setting, opposed to the usual just throw and go. Oh, what a finish! Oh.
Wow. And Julie Best, who had been working well on all the stations, almost closed down Michelle completely, as we see these athletes gave absolutely everything. Jessica looked very smooth throughout the race. She ends up in second place, at least for the moment.
Xander, I think Julie Best was just as surprised as we were at how close they actually were on the burpees. As soon as she crossed the finish line, she might have said a word that was just thinking, oh, I didn't realize I was this close, because you noticed she kicked into high gear. She had no idea where she was at on that. Oh, man.
And there's a look at Katie, our race winner, had been in second place for almost the entirety of it. We got the drama. This is something we haven't had in a while. Last time, both races were kind of blowouts. Obviously, Isaac well away from the field in the men's race this morning, but finally, for the first time in a couple of weeks, it really wasn't too close in Knoxville either, but we finally got a battle at the end, positions changing.
Yes.
The 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4, just a couple of epic battles. And this was a great race, and a great showing from all four of these athletes. The first time we've seen any of them this season.
Yeah, well, we definitely got a treat today, Xander, for sure. Between definitely third and fourth there at the end, and then I guess between third and fourth at between the men, right? I think that's still to be decided as far as what's going to happen there. And I want to be the guy. I want to know what, of course, is the penalty situations here. We have to standardize this, right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. Here we got the man, the myth, the legend, the man of the hour yet again.
What's up, guys?
Mr. Sanderson. What's up, Isaac? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Can't complain. Thanks for a great showing. I'm sure Xander, of course, is going to get to the questions as well, but I just wanted to ask you real quick, how does it feel to be the man on top in back-to-back races? Have you had a winning streak before?
Not in this hybrid space before. Other sports a couple years ago, yeah. But it feels good. I don't know. I'm just out here having fun and trying to enjoy my weekend. So it feels good. But more importantly, it feels good to work hard and kind of push my fitness a bit.
Yeah, it was a very similar to what we saw 2 weeks ago with you and Glenn at the top of this race, and you kind of just took it out, looked very smooth throughout. I mean, I know that we just saw you 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure, how much time there is really to build fitness in between races, but it's just another solid one on the board. What was your, after such a strong race 2 weeks ago where presumably, you've got any championship qualification taken care of, what was your mindset coming into this one in such a quick turnaround?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's hard to kind of grow that fitness in just 2 weeks. So it wasn't really the goal. The time goal was 2 weeks ago, and I got that. So I'm happy with the qualification time I got in SoCal. And different mindset today. I wanted to go out a little hot and suffer a bit. I've been pretty vocal about 2 weeks from now being the goal for High Rocks Anaheim. So wanted to get in that pain cave quite early, and I got there a lot earlier than I did 2 weeks ago. So yeah, mission accomplished. Time is what the time was. I think it was just over 30. So again, good, solid race, felt smooth. Yeah, definitely suffered for probably 20 minutes of that race. So it felt good.
Yeah, I think the time was just slightly slower, but it seems like the perceived effort is obviously still there, right? I mean, 20 seconds is anywhere to be gained and had at any part of the race, right? So now I noticed that first 500 split, you took it out hot, man. You were, I think, a 126, 127. Now, was it just in the back of your mind, since you said it yourself, you had your goal 2 weeks ago, you got your time, more than likely solidified yourself in the World Champs in December this year, was maybe just the idea of going, Why not? What do I got to lose? World record? Question mark.
Oh no, that was not in my mind at all. Ryland's got that secured for a little bit. I got some time yet to grow some fitness and try to challenge that. I think that's like 28:30. That's
It's
a gross
fast.
time.
Yeah, but it's still.
Yeah, I need some time. Yeah, that wasn't on my mind at all. It was just purely suffer early and try to battle through it, because I'm going to feel that pain in 2 weeks from now. So I want to get a little taste for it today.
Yeah, and you mentioned, of course, 2 weeks from now, that last chance qualifier, High Rocks Anaheim. So I guess ideally the plan is that you'll then have another High Rocks race to prepare for after that if all goes well. But, are you thinking long term about the DEKA FIT season and what that looks like for you? Obviously now the date is on the calendar with World Championships in December. There's a lot of time to go and really so much to get settled sort of in other environments between now and then. But, having raced these 2 back-to-back races, what are you thinking as far as the rest of the year goes?
Yeah, it's a long season. I haven't really thought about it. They just announced that it was in December, I think December 13th. So there's no way I can maintain this sort of fitness throughout the entire calendar year. So it's going to be more of a show my face the first little bit. I might do Anaheim. I might do Austin, DEKA, depending on how High Rocks goes. Hey, good job. And I'll probably focus on other things for the middle of the season, kind of get a mental reset and physical reset, and then I'll build again for the end of the year. So we got our female winner over here joining us for a little conversation. But yeah, I'll probably pivot fitness and do some more trail stuff, and then get back into DEKA later in the year.
Yeah, Isaac, it's a long season. Oh, go ahead, Xander. Go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing. It's, with sort of High Rocks and DEKA on opposite timelines, you have that opportunity to kind of have some fun in the summer, do some other things, and really kind of mental reset, and then get ready to get after it later in the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So Isaac, I just wanted to ask, man, you're a very humble guy. Every time we've talked, you think of others and all this type of stuff, and that's what I love about the sport. The camaraderie is there, brotherhood, sisterhood, all that type of stuff. But man, last year it was Nick Riker who podiumed every single DEKA race that I pretty much covered and did. You so far, you're back-to-back winners, and I know you're a humble person, man, but I want to know why not Isaac Sanderson, the 2024 DEKA FIT World Champion? Do you believe it and see yourself as the world championship or the world champion for this year?
Wow. How I thought about it? No, I haven't thought about it yet. I just come on and compete and try to have fun and suffer a bit and smile. So at some point, depending on how my fitness goes, that could be a possibility. I'm still young. I'm still growing. I'm still kind of new to this sport. So at some point, yes, but it's never kind of top of mind. That's never the real goal. I am too all over the place and kind of pursue different things to actually specialize in one certain avenue. So yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll to be determined.
I think people believe in you, man. You're definitely a contender every time, every race. So you definitely earn that respect.
It's not a lack of confidence. It's just I rather pursue a bunch of different things and kind of have fun.
Okay.
So.
All right. That's a good answer. I like that. I'll take that.
Appreciate it.
So from one winner to another, we're joined now by Katie, who won the women's race. And, coming into it, we sort of had some names we were familiar with and talked about. Yours was not one of them. So we were a bit surprised you were up there at front, but just a very strong performance. I guess just take us through it. How did it go for you today?
That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I run trail runs, ultras, marathons, and that was just completely more anaerobic than I'm used to. And I just tried to chip away. I knew that I was a strong runner. I wasn't familiar with many. This is my first DEKA, so I wasn't familiar with many of the obstacles I practiced this morning. And then I just said, well, try and get them in the run.
Wow.
So I just did what I could.
Well, Katie, I was mentioning it to Xander during the race itself. We could clearly tell you're a runner based off your running form. It's phenomenal. It's flawless. But that's what I wanted to dive into. Of course, we don't know who you are. People at home don't know who you are. Like, what is Katie's background? You mentioned ultra running. Do we win ultra races? Have we gone to Boston? Have we done Western States? Like, what's Katie's background?
So I just came back from Boston 2 weeks ago, and I broke 3 hours. That was my goal.
Wow, congrats.
I podiumed on a couple, like I've done Lake Sonoma 100K. I podiumed on that. And then my big race this year is Javelina 100 mile in October.
Wow. Okay. And are we
So
sub 24, sub 20? What type of race paces are we pushing in these ultra runs?
We'll see.
Okay, fair
Let's talk
enough.
about range for a second. Holy.
Yeah.
Like
this
I
is
said,
Katie,
what's your name?
Yeah, well, I don't know who Katie is, so we're meeting each other right now.
Exactly, I was going to say, and talk about
Isaac?
range,
Isaac?
you know.
Yeah, I don't
Isaac
like to
is someone
pigeonhole
who's mixed
myself
up
into
in
one thing.
Right.
Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah.
Well, if
Go
you
ahead,
want
Jimmy.
to talk about going from trail running and longer stuff to hybrid, you're sitting next to someone who's done just that over the last couple of years. But it's interesting because this hybrid space is pretty new, and we've seen a lot of athletes come into it from something else, right? Hybrids like DEKA FIT didn't exist 4 years ago, so everyone has a background to doing something else before it. And we've seen people come from the trail and ultra and longer space, and a lot of times sort of the station work kind of punches them in the face a little bit. But it seemed like throughout the entirety of the race, even if you didn't necessarily know what it was going to feel like, you were able to maintain and sustain your effort. And I think that it's even more impressive hearing that you really had no experience in this format so far, and we're just kind of getting into it for the first time.
Yeah, I went to the Folsom Anywhere Fit, and they're like, you should really try out DEKA. There's a race in Sacramento next weekend. I was like, okay.
It must be a good feeling,
impressive.
right?
Try it
To
out.
not know exactly at all. Yeah, to not know
There's no
really what
pressure.
this is, and just exactly, you came in with no expectations, and you come out as the winner. I mean,
That's crazy,
do we
yeah.
see you at future events now? Is this something that you may want to dive into? You might have solidified a time to the World Championships so far this year, which is in December, by the way, December 13th in Florida.
That's crazy.
If you want to come on out.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Is that something we see? Do we see you take a step into this as well?
Maybe. I'd say I'm open to it.
I
Yeah.
like it. I like
December, that's right after Javelina, so I'll be well
I
prepared.
feel like we have very
Yeah.
similar temperaments. This is like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I think you just might find a relay partner right there, Isaac. I don't know, man. So this is
Hey.
exciting
I
stuff. Hey, I did want to ask real quick.
Too.
I wanted to ask real quick between Katie and Isaac, both of you. So, Katie, this is your first time coming in and doing this, experiencing and stuff. I want you to answer what was by far the hardest station, and that really thought to yourself, maybe this is where I gained time, this is where I lost time. And then, Isaac, you're so experienced in this as well at this point, but is there still a station that you maybe don't look forward to seeing, and you're thinking, okay, either I need to hit it really hard to maintain a lead, or this is the station I back off because I know it can really compromise me and have the other guys catch me? I don't know if you had an answer for that or not.
I think for me, it was the bike to the run, and then the sled push. I didn't actually know how many laps we were supposed to do, but that kind of killed my quads.
This
Yeah.
is awesome.
It is. This is all. Katie, you did great. You put on a great
Thanks.
Yeah,
show.
fantastic. I think I don't like the dead balls. I think they're very underrated. Coming off that bike and trying to get your legs again, and just the motion of compressing like your diaphragm and getting the ball over. It's scary because it doesn't really let you recover. Everyone's always like, "Oh, recover the dead balls," and I don't recover at all in dead balls because I can't breathe. So I don't really love that one. Other than that, the rest of them are. It's a good kind of break from running. It's nice to have the pivot focuses. So I don't really mind the rest of them. But the dead balls, for some reason, I am not a fan.
Duly noted. Duly noted. Well, congrats
It's
today,
funny,
guys.
Yeah, I was going to say
Thanks.
just the last point for me is that, Luke and I talked about multiple times during the broadcast about how, well, there's no real mystery in hybrid at this point. Everyone's familiar with the format and you know what to expect. Well, when someone comes in brand new to the sport, maybe they don't know what to expect. And yeah, just, Katie, when you were saying, hey, I didn't even know how many back and forths to do with the sled. I guess sometimes it's, what you don't know, you have no expectation. You can just kind of do what's in front of you. And it seemed like that worked out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no pressure.
I love it. You're gonna be awesome for
Thanks,
the
guys.
sport, Katie.
Thanks.
All right, well,
this was so fun.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Awesome.
It was great to hear from
guys.
both Isaac Sanderson, our men's champion, Katie Dambrosia, the women's champion. Great job out there today, and thanks for taking the time to join us afterwards.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for taking time out of your weekend.
Of course.
Luke, I tell you what, that's been one of the best additions to the broadcast this year is having, Jason and the production team on site at all these races, because it's allowed us to get these interviews, as we're now going to hear from a couple more of our top competitors on the women's side as well.
Welcome, ladies. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, awesome. Well, Michelle, Julie, congratulations on a very epic finish for us to watch at home, of course. Who ended up getting the last little bit? Do we know? Do we know for sure? Or
we were just saying the same thing. We're not quite sure because the time says that we both ran 36:58.
Oh, okay. So that comes a little more exciting. It looked like Michelle was maybe a step ahead, but Julie, your face said it all when you crossed that finish line. When you turned around and you actually saw that you were right there with Michelle, you sped up just enough, and then, man, your face just said like, it's almost like I didn't realize I was that close. So did you know coming into the stations, does anybody count out loud? Can you kind of hear what the other one's doing? We're sitting at home, so of course we don't really have access to that. Or did you just kind of go, I just know I need to hit them fast to try to close in Michelle?
So I know that Michelle's a faster runner than me, and I know that my stations have gotten way faster, but I'm still trying to pick up running from being sick. So I knew on my last lap that Michelle would beat me in, but I knew that I could beat her on the burpees if I just went hard. So really I knew it was going to come down to neck and neck. I didn't know how close we were though. I just knew I needed to get across the finish line.
Yeah, and same thing. It's the same thing from Carolinas last year. I was struggling and I got in the stations, but everyone else was coming right behind me. So I'm no stranger to that feeling. I just had to do as best I could.
She's a fast runner.
You can say that, yeah.
And it seemed like that's how a lot of the race played out. Michelle, you might have gotten a little bit ahead on the runs, and Julie, you would make up 5-6 seconds, maybe up to 10 at every station, and it kind of played out like that. I guess for each of you, having not raced yet this year, what were your expectations, and how do you think today unfolded compared to what you felt you were prepared for?
Yeah, so I always like to do one around this time of year just to get started. I usually come off of a spring of mainly road racing, and so trying to get back into the strength, it takes me a little while to get used to that feeling. Compromised running is definitely not the same. So I'm glad that it went pretty well today, but I always have higher expectations to do better, but I know that it just takes me a couple tries. So I like to get out there, feel the feeling of the race, and just get that competitive flow going again.
And honestly, for me, I knew going into this race that my run wouldn't be as fast as normal, but I knew my stations had gotten faster. I actually was going to race age group today because I just felt like I've lost enough fitness in the past 3 months not being able to get in there and get going. But then Yancey talked me into running elite, and you know what? I'm so glad that I did, because it's always fun to race the best in the world. So
we need you out there.
No, for sure. We definitely want the names out there that everyone's familiar with and that we know can compete well, which is always you two. So is there any future races on the board? Michelle, you just mentioned you like to get in the feel for things. Julie, we always see you at most races as well. What's the next race on board for you ladies? And also, too, I assume this is not times that y'all want. So is there going to be a race to be like, okay, this is it. This is where I qualify for Worlds, and then I'll see everybody in December?
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of in a build for my first High Rocks. I'm going to do June in New York City in June. So this was kind of a stepping stone as well for me, just to get back into hybrid feeling. So that's my next big thing. I have a couple of road races in between. I'll always do that. And then, I'm going to do Pennsylvania DEKA FIT because that's close to me as well.
And I'm going to race the Spartan National Series, Big Bear, in 2 weeks. So hopefully I don't die in the climbs. And then I'll race in Austin for the next DEKA.
Talk about transition for running. Yeah, even more. So you're going to have a blast out of that one. But you're a great obstacle course racer too, so I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Well, thank you.
Also, by the way, we're going to do teams. So that's technically our next race today.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, exciting. Now, do we know any other
Yeah.
females doing teams?
I don't actually. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how
All
it goes out there.
All right. I like this team up right here.
I do too.
Well, in that case, I guess we'll see you guys in a couple of hours then. It was fun to watch today. Congratulations on a strong season opener. I think for both of you, sort of coming in from different aspects of fitness, getting ready for the rest of this hybrid season. So yeah, we look forward to, I guess, seeing you guys in a couple of hours, what you can do on the team front, but also throughout the course of the year.
And
Sounds
share that
good. Thanks,
podium
guys.
for third
Thank
place,
you.
maybe. Of course, ladies.
Yeah, I
Great job
know.
today.
Thank you.
So I think that's going to just about do it for us here. As wow, what a day that was!
Exciting.
Great,
that was awesome.
Great race. Put down by Isaac and Glenn, and that battle. We don't even know who got third place yet between Jack and Mark Polzin. I guess we'll have to wait for the podium picks later on to see what actually happened. And then as well on the women's side, how about Katie Dambrosia? Coming out of nowhere, you heard from her herself. Didn't even really know what to expect in terms of how it was going to feel, but an impressive showing. And I think, she has some big goals in the trail and ultra space, but I'm excited to see what could happen if she comes back into DEKA FIT later on again.
Yeah, it's always impressive to see someone who's not familiar with as far as what to do. This is their first DEKA FIT, yada, yada. They come in and they run, right? And typically they do well. If you're a decent runner or you're a decent CrossFitter or something, you'll do decent, maybe finish mid-pack and stuff. But for someone to come in and then win against very veteran-based competitors, and then also not just win, but have no idea what you're doing. I mean, most people at least look into this a little bit more. The fact that she goes, I had no idea how many sled pulls and pushes I'm supposed to do. She's probably on the bike going, how many calories do I go to? So it's so impressive. I think she has a very competitive mindset. I hope we see Katie at future races because she could be someone that could maybe really make a name for herself in this sport with that running background that she has.
Yeah, it's cool to see someone sort of willing to try anything, right? She talked about having just done the Boston Marathon. She's got a 100-miler coming up at the end of October, and maybe we'll see her at another DEKA FIT. So I think we're going to have the men's results here up on the screen momentarily from what Jason Dupree said. And yeah, here we go. So it looks like Mark Polzin, DQ, Jack Bauer gets third place. How about that?
Wow.
Oh, okay. So Jason in our ear saying Mark Polzin only did 19 burpees, and so it wasn't necessarily throwing it down, but 1 rep short, and that gives Jack Bauer his third consecutive third place here in Sacramento. But Isaac Sanderson at the top, Glenn Race, and these are, of course, unofficial times until the podium happens, but a strong race. And, how about there in 5th place? You talked about him at the start. John Howard would just sort of do his thing and work his way up in the field. He did just that, coming in just under 33 minutes.
Yeah, no, this was John Howard put a great showing. Jeremiah Mahan, of course, in 4th place yet again. Jack in 3rd. Max Fennell with a good PR here. So it seems like his training's been paying off. And, of course, all the other names, Dustin Needham, Preston Burnett, all the household names. And then Stephen Young, as much as he is probably the fastest foot runner, finishing 10th with 37. Definitely not maybe elite category by any means. That could place him in an age group category, but it'd be interesting to see if he continues to do this sport as well. But man, all the love goes to Isaac Sanderson today with another great performance. He didn't break 30 minutes, but a low 30 is still very impressive. He didn't want to say it and stuff, but why wouldn't you want to be a world champion? You strive to be in this sport to be the best competitor, and then when you show up to the start line, you want to win. I mean, of course, you want to see everybody do well, and you want to see your friends do well and stuff. And he's a very humble guy, but man, Isaac's going to be someone to watch for the rest of the year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. His personality, he's going to be humble like that. And maybe it's partly because, he's only really competed against Glenn so far this year, right? There hasn't been anyone else in the field to push the pace. So yes, he's put down these 2 strong times, but, we haven't seen a Ryland, we haven't seen a Ryan Kent or a Rich Ryan or David McGeeta or some of these Dylan Scott, these top guys who have, we haven't seen any of the other sub-30 guys at all so far this season. So maybe in the back of Isaac's mind, he's thinking, well, I don't know what it's going to be like when I'm toe-to-toe with one of them, but
Sure.
those back-to-back showings, he said it himself. He was going for the time 2 weeks ago. This one was just to get another dose of spice before the High Rocks Last Chance qualifier. And for him, mission accomplished for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is awesome. And congrats, Jack, if they for sure got third, man. That's awesome. That's so cool. So, and here's the women's.
And here's the women's results. So Katie Dambrosia, 1952 run time. She comes in under 35 minutes. And both Michelle Navarro and Julie Best. And okay, so now we're hearing that Jessica Caviglia may have also gotten a disqualification like Mark, and that's unfortunate with fewer reps. And so Michelle and Julie are going to end up second and third. I was wondering there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome for Michelle and Julie, that is, of course. Huge bummer for Jessica and Mark, but this is what I love that Yancey and everybody in DEKA is doing right now. You're being very strict to the rules, going back to the footage. You're doing everything that should be corrected because no one wants the controversy afterwards. No one wants to then see a post going, well, so-and-so only did 17 or someone threw the rant. You don't want that in this sport. So it's good that they do that. A huge bummer for Jessica because she led the whole entire race. And she threw down a phenomenal time, a PR time as well, even though her burpees were slower than all the other ladies. She was still on pace for that. So I know Jessica's going to bounce back from this, and I'm sure Mark will too, being a veteran that he is. But congrats to Michelle and Jolie then for now getting that podium spots for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see there, apparently running a marathon is the best way to prepare for a DEKA because Katie Dambrosia comes in just a couple of weeks after running Boston and wins with almost no expectations. So again, we heard from her. Cool. She's not sure. She really didn't know much about this event even heading into this week. Hasn't firmed up any plans to do it more, but it's certainly a name that we're going to pay attention to, and we see her on a start list. It's like one of the great things about this sport is, even though some athletes have now been doing it for 3 or 4 years and we know who they are and what they've done, we still have new competitors finding this space, every week. And sometimes they happen to come out near the front and win a pretty competitive race. And that was really cool to see today.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope she finds a partner here for us in a couple hours to watch for the teams. Maybe she does co-ed or maybe another female. I would love to continue to watch her today, but I'm sure she's also feeling it considering she said it's the hardest thing she has ever done. So, which is great respect for DEKA.
Absolutely. So I think that's going to just about do it for us here this morning. We'll be back in a couple of hours. You heard from Michelle Navarro and Julie Best. They're going to be towing the line in the team race. And one of the exciting things is we're not totally sure who else is going to be in the team event. We should get a start list a little bit beforehand. But teams are always fun. Sometimes they send the co-ed female and male teams out together, however they do it. It's a different format, a different style, and some different strategy. But I'm excited to see what that looks like here in a couple hours later this afternoon.
It's going to be fun to watch, man.
So that's going to just about do it. A special thank you to the members of the OCR Report for making this race live stream possible. This live race coverage has been a presentation of the OCR Report. You can support live streams like this one for less than $5 a month by becoming a member through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/the OCR Report. For our producer on the ground, Jason Dupree, for Luke Halterman, all of our rabbits, for the athletes who competed and joined us for the interviews. I am Xander Keene. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in a few hours for the team race here on the OCR Report.